Today, we're going to be helping Meng Wang from Our Little Treasures to make at least $10,000 in the next 5 minutes. Pat from Intergrowth here. We're going to do an SEO slash AEO e-commerce deep dive for our friends over at Our Little Treasures to help them uncover all sorts of different opportunities that are going to help them to way better monetize their site for traditional search engines and large language models. And for those wondering, yes, Meng did give us the thumbs up saying that we're okay to put this together. So thank you, Meng. Excited to make you a bunch of money here. With that little bit of background, going into this, we give ourselves 15 minutes to audit these sites. So I have a couple notes down here on my computer. I'm going to walk you through exactly what we're seeing. And if we were to work with Our Little Treasures, what are the first set of things that we would be doing to make them a ton of money from SEO and LLMs in a very short time window? So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump in. So the first opportunity that we're looking at in here is going to be rolling out what's referred to as same as schema. Now, same as schema is ultimately a tool that makes it really easy for search engines like Google and large language models to better understand all of the different properties that are associated with your brand. So a good way of looking at it, your website is one property, your Instagram page is another property, your YouTube channel is a third property, your LinkedIn page is a fourth property. By default, it's really hard for search engines to connect the dots and understand these properties are all interconnected unless you're a much more established brand. So when we look at the Our Little Treasures website, first thing that jumps out to me is they have a really powerful following online. Ballpark, they have 10,000 followers on Instagram. TikTok, they're looking at 1,300 followers, but they don't have that one line of or couple lines of same as schema markup that makes it really easy for search engines and LLMs to connect the dots. So this is a really great quick win that you can roll out. It's not going to change your business overnight, but it's a great way to make some additional money by making it easier for search engines to understand that all that credibility that you've earned from Instagram is associated with the same brand that's associated for this website. So right now, the Our Little Treasures website does not have any same as schema. That's the first thing I would look to roll out for the brand. You can do all this with most Shopify themes, which they're based on Shopify. You can do this directly in the Shopify theme settings by adding in those social media profiles in there. Most Shopify templates are automatically going to populate that same as schema markup once you add that element into the mix. I'd recommend doing that right away. It'll take you 5 minutes and it's going to lead to some great gains for the business. Now, next thing we're looking at is one of these sample collections pages, or one of the PLPs on the website. Specifically, we're going to look at zip rompers. Now, there are a couple different collections pages on the website. Everything I'm going to share here can and should be used for every other collections page on the site. Zip rompers are the one specific one that I looked at that's going to have, I would argue, the greatest commercial impact for their business. So right now, when I look at this site, we see right off the bat, title of the page, organic zip rompers, is descriptive. The only downsides that come into play with this is when we look into this content right here and we look at the source code, we can see this is an H2. Now, in essence, that's telling search engines that this is something other than like the title of the page is a good way of looking at it. So really quick win I would roll out, change this H2 to an H1. It's going to make it way easier for search engines to understand what this page is all about. Now, next thing I would do is I would optimize that H1 and then all of the other elements on the page. So that's going to be things like the title tag. It's going to be all sorts of copy that's on here to incorporate something related to babies. So it's just easier for search engines to connect the dots. What I find really helpful for this process is doing something as straightforward as going to Google and searching a phrase like baby zip rompers, which is just a slightly more descriptive way of saying what this is. From there, we can look into it and we can see what are all the different brands that currently show up on Google that rank for these types of keywords. I'm using Ahrefs for this analysis, but we can look into it and we can see what sort of keywords do these pages actually rank for. So pulled up some analysis for this Amazon page that currently ranks in the US market. We can see Amazon is getting a pretty good amount of traffic for keywords related to zip rompers, baby zip romper, zipper romper. We have zip up romper baby, zipper romper baby, a whole bunch of different variants in here. What I would likely do is pick one of these and just decide, hey, that's the key theme we're going after. We're going to win that keyword. And then we're going to think about all these other very, very semantically related keywords afterwards. So let's say hypothetically we go baby zip romper. What we're doing from there is we are optimizing this soon to be H1, changing it to something like organic baby zip rompers. We're then going to change the title tag, which is currently zip rompers, to organic baby zip rompers. It's going to help this page to rank significantly higher on Google. Now, from there, one of the things that I love to do is to ask LLMs for their perception of brands, their perception of specific products, and also to play the role of a potential customer and brainstorm likely follow-up questions that are going to come into the mix. So I went through this exercise just briefly with Claude to try and understand what are some of the likely follow-up questions that are going to come in the mix. You don't need any special tools for this. You can even have a free Claude account to do this. Something like this, though. Let's assume I'm a parent with a young child who's considering buying one of their baby zip rompers on insert page. What follow-up questions am I most likely to ask before purchasing? Claude spits out a whole bunch of great questions. Now, Meng is going to know far better than Claude is whether these are actual customer questions, whether these are questions that are answered in other places of the website that would be easier to pull in or better suited for like a customer service email. But what I would recommend doing is read through all these questions and just ask genuinely, is this stuff that would be helpful to a potential customer who is looking at these various products? All sorts of stuff about how sizes are measured, how maybe a chunkier baby might be asking whether a larger baby is going to be better suited for a larger sizing, how products shrink over time, you name it. There's a lot of gold in here. I would highly recommend going through this exercise. Now, next thing that really jumps out to me here, and for our little treasures, this is going to be lower impact in the early stages, but it's a good thing to spend 15 minutes looking into one time through. If you go to domain.com/sitemap.xml, you're going to get redirected to whatever your CMS uses as the default sitemap index page. You're going to be able to pull up all sorts of different sitemaps that search engines are using to understand pages on your website. When we go to one of these sitemaps, what we're going to see coming on in the mix is a breakdown of all sorts of what I refer to as developer pages or PPC-centric pages. So think any sort of landing page that you've built out for like a Google Ads PMax campaign, for a Meta Ads campaign, and then all sorts of pages that maybe your developer built out in the early stages of building your website that were intended to be kind of grouped together in one larger page section. So a couple examples that stood out in the mix right in here is we have this email sign up inline page. So we just pull up that URL right in here. We can see this is just a series of products that don't really fit in the mix anywhere. So likely something that's useful from a developer perspective to be able to pull this into the page, but likely not something that we want to be indexed on Google. This is going to dilute the value of other more established pages that you do want to be ranking. If we look in here, we're going to see all sorts of other pages like that. I think it was this restock one that stood out to me when we were jumping in here. Okay, so that one's actually not found. Perfect. So maybe it was this one that was coming in the mix then. Okay, well, same thing there. So either way, we have a couple of these pages that are showing up. What I would recommend doing, there are a lot of different tools you can work with in the Shopify app ecosystem that will make it really straightforward to hide these pages from search engine results pages. The term you're looking for is to no index these pages. There's one tool that I've worked with probably a dozen different times called NoIndexly, which is a great free tool to work with. It makes it really straightforward to hide pages just like this. You can manually select pages like this and hide them from search engine results pages. This is particularly powerful when you start scaling up and start building out more landing pages for the site that are important for your paid ads campaigns, but that you really don't want to be taking away rankings from like a main collections page. So if you build out 4 different variants of your collections page and you're testing out performance for them, you want to make sure that only one of them is truly indexed, because otherwise the 4 of them can end up fighting against each other for rankings, and that leads to a nightmare. With that, I know we're coming up on time here. There was, that's right, local partnerships. That was the last thing I wanted to jump into today. So for Meng specifically, the thing I love about her business is she has this really prominent trade up program. So anyone listening, I'd encourage you to check this out. This is super cool. Ultimately, people who buy products from her, buy baby clothing from her, are able to return those products once they no longer fit their children and get a like special discount that can be used on the next set of clothes they buy. Meng then takes all these items, hand analyzes them, let's call it, washes them, determines which products are high enough quality to be resold as pre-owned clothing, and ultimately sells those on her website. The remaining clothes end up getting donated to all sorts of local charities, or to like local manufacturers. So to me, this is a huge PR play. Short term, what I would really love to see our little treasures do is to really highlight all these local partnerships that they're building out. So, one, go to all the different closed donation organizations that they're currently working with and ask if they can be listed as like an official sponsor, an official partner, and get a link back to their website from there. It's going to work wonders in terms of building up their site authority, helping them to rank against some of these other, let's call it like more established baby clothing brands that are out there, because there's a lot of competition in the space. But going through that list, finding any sort of local partnerships like that, where they can get a shout out on these other websites. Ideally, they're getting a link back to the Our Little Treasures website in the mix. But even if it's as straightforward as getting a name recognition on there, that's still going to work wonders in terms of their brand credibility. So we're going to wrap it up from there. Again, I know we are probably a bit over on time, but what I would say from here is reach out to us if you are interested in having your brand audited next. You can send us an email at audits@intergrowth.com and stay tuned for the next one.